his career as a district officer before he became the district commissioner and later provincial commissioner before he went into elective politics in the national government. So he has served this country in different capacities. The most notable is finance minister 1998. And of course, before then, Simeon Nyachae served at the regional level where he was a district officer and district commissioner, as I have mentioned. But he also served in the Ministry of Agriculture, also served in the Ministry of Industrialization before he went to form Ford People, where he ran for president in the year 2002, straight after leaving the party of KANU. He has been eulogized in several ways, and we will try and sample some of the things that have been said by leaders and eulogy, and of course the goodwill messages that have been sent by leaders. There's so much information on social media from Nairobi to the county of Kisii, from friends, family. And remember, Simeon Nyachae was also a businessman. He's the son of Nyandusi, a paramount chief, perhaps the last of the paramount chiefs in the pre-colonial periods. So it's quite a loss for the family of Nyandusi, Mzee Nyandusi, who died years ago. And of course, now we know Charles Nyachae, one of the sons of Simeon Nyachae, who is a judge at the East Africa Legislative Assembly. So we'll try and get as much information as we can for you. But we will take you through, again, the life and time of Simeon Nyachae, born 1932, died 2021, began his career in the 50s, straight after his education, which was, by the way, both abroad and local, before he went to be a district officer, district commissioner, provincial commissioner. And those are live pictures from Lee Funeral Home. We hope to get as many people as possible speaking. And of course, Murimi Mwangi has been covering this for us. He has been at Lee Funeral Home since morning. He now joins us with a live report from Lee Funeral Home. Murimi, we have had quite some information, but it's still scanty. What we have been told that this has been a long coming. He's been sick for a while. The family said he's borne it very bravely. But tell us, we had the interior CS speaking, and also we had the son speaking. Tell us exactly who's there and what are they saying on the sidelines.
Good afternoon, Mijungu. Certainly has been a long day for the family, quite a traumatic start to the year. Remember, Mama's rumors about his demise have been on social media from as early as January this year, and the family coming out to deny that. And actually, from as early as 9 in the morning today, the same happening. And of course, the confirmation setting in stage now preparations for a proper send-off for the long-serving civil servant who rose through the ranks after quite a tumultuous start to his education, retracing it back to before independence, and his accession to a very senior position of chief secretary in retired President, the late Daniel Arap Moi's government, and his attempt at the presidency in the year 2002. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, among the senior government officials here, and senior members of the family as well. We have the Charles Nyachae, who of course read the brief from the family, and perhaps the interior CS capturing what would certainly go or come out from the mouths of senior leaders who have risen through the ranks, having been mentored by the long-serving civil servant. You will remember that Matiang'i himself for quite a long time served under Simeon Nyachae, at one point serving as his personal assistant, and therefore quite a demise that is personal to him and the family. Recollections of the illustrious career of the late Simeon Nyachae definitely expected to dominate public conversations in the coming days. Many will remember his departure from the Independence Party KANU. That was quite a time for the country, because Kenya was at the time facing financial challenges, and part of the reason for his exit from the administration was the ideological differences between him and key men behind the president on his top financial policies. Because you remember, at one point he did issue quite a statement that the Kenyan economy was in ICU, and you remember that statement did not go down well with key decision makers in government. That would, of course, kickstart his exit from KANU, beginning with a demotion from that ministry to the Ministry of Industry, and he would eventually resign from government and heading to the 2002 polls make a stab at the presidency, which was unsuccessful. But he would eventually make a comeback. You remember when retired President Mwai Kibaki lost in the 2005 referendum and went about reorganizing his government. Remember that in the 2002 polls, Nyachae, despite losing the presidency with a meager 5% of the presidential vote, had a substantive number of members of parliament, most of them coming from the Kisii region. Therefore, his entry to government was quite important at restabilizing the government of retired President Mwai Kibaki after that loss in 2005 at the referendum. And therefore, quite a lot expected to dominate the public space in terms of these discussions, the recollections of the life and times of the late Simeon Nyachae. Mijungu.
Yeah, and quite some background on Simeon Nyachae, his lifetime and career. And of course, I'll give my own perspective before Brian gives us his perspective of Simeon Nyachae. Brian is a business reporter. He knows this. The late Simeon Nyachae served as finance minister 1998 for only 1 year, 1999. And he only left the government after he was taken to the Ministry of Industrialization. So I'm going to speak to Brian. But Brian, I remember in 2002 when Simeon Nyachae ran for president. Actually, I remember this because my father ran for member of parliament of Migori County in 2002, and he ran on Ford People Party. And I remember the slogan was Watu wengi, wengi sana, na kalamu. That was the slogan then, so it's a recollection that I still have it in my mind, 2002. That is very clear. I met him several times. I know the family. So, Brian, finance minister, 1998, 1999, only 1 year. What do you remember about Simeon Nyachae? I know you are a little boy, but right now you are well read, so you might remember a few things about Simeon Nyachae.
Well, the most I can recollect about Simeon Nyachae is him being, having an illustrious career in public service, both in civil service and also in the elective politics. And of course, a man whose career spans from being a district officer in Kangundo and then finally rising to the positions, rising through the ranks, of course, abandoning civil service at some point, going into elective politics, winning the Nyaribari Chache seat and getting also into being a minister, at least in 4 key ministries that really matter to the business world, particularly talking about agriculture, finance, of course, the 1998 to 1999, just mentioning also, he was also Minister for Industrialization at some point, Minister for Energy, actually, and then Simeon Nyachae, the late Simeon Nyachae was also Minister for Roads in Kibaki's government. Those are some of the recollections I have of him, and of course, his son, that is Mr. Charles Nyachae, who was very instrumental in the commission for the implementation of the Constitution way after it was passed, I think somewhere around 2010 thereabout. So the late Nyachae would be remembered as one person whose contributions in Kenya were really insurmountable, particularly in those key ministerial positions he held that relate closely to the business world, particularly in Kenya and also in the regional perspective. And his son has taken up strongly in fronting such kind of leadership skills, ostensibly that they earned right from the grandfather, Musa Nyandusi, who was a powerful colonial chief, and perhaps the last one, as you had mentioned earlier on. And then the leadership positions were passed over, I guess it was some bit of apprenticeship in that home. The mantle of leadership must have rested quite strongly in the sons of, in that lineage. Okay. So we were seeing Musa Nyandusi, who was perhaps the last colonial chief, very powerful, whose hand was very instrumental in, Honorable Nyachae's education. Getting education back then was quite a pricey thing. And of course, we see again, right now, his grandchild, who is Charles Nyachae, leading in the IALA, that is in the East Africa Legislative Assembly. Quite an illustrious career, particularly for that leadership home.
Yes. Yes, indeed, Brian, and we can't forget that he was preceded by Musalia Mudavadi, perhaps one of the youngest finance ministers at that time. Then we had Francis Masahalia coming straight after Simeon Nyachae. And of course, there's a lot of goodwill messages that are already coming online. I'd just like to read one of them. Those are live pictures from the Lee Funeral Home, where several dignitaries, friends and relatives, and of course government officials are already flocking that place, of course the Lee Funeral Home, to view the body of the late Simeon Nyachae, who died at the age of 89. Perhaps you'd say he had a long life, but it's always sad to have someone leave, and especially someone who is remembered by a lot of people for a lot of things and a lot of work done in this country, and so many deeds that he had that we can still remember, especially when he was as finance minister, and the quotes he had and the difference that led him out of the party of Baba and Mama. I'd like